This is it, y'all. We're leaving Lexington. See you on the road. So our first major destination for our van life journey is Acadia National Park. And we didn't really have a solid plan of where we wanted to go between Lexington and there. And so we just kind of have been making it up as we go along, and it's been super fun. We've been to so many places that we had never heard of before. A lot of these places have just been recommended to us by people that we've met along the way, and that's been super fun. So the first place we went was Yellow Springs, Ohio, which is this really cute little artsy hippie town. There were murals on so many of the buildings that were super cool. There was lots of really cute little boutiques and shops. And so we just kind of walked around. There was a really nice like bike walk path. The first night that we were there, we were just walking around the town and we heard this music drifting through the air and we were like, what's that? That sounds so good. We ended up going to this place called Trailtown Brewery, and there was this blues musician named Joe Waters playing out on the patio, and it was delightful. The next day in Yellow Springs, we went to the Glen Helen Nature Preserve and did a really cool hike. We got to see the spring that the town was named after. Just in the middle of the woods, kind of on this trail, we found this like raptor rehabilitation center. And so we got to walk through and see all these really awesome birds of prey. So after Yellow Springs, we went to Ohiopyle, Pennsylvania, which Michael had been to before. And it's famous for the Youghiogheny River and Ohiopyle Falls. So we checked out the waterfall and we paddled the lower Youghiogheny River, which is like a class 3 river, and just really had a great time there. Pogi saw Canada geese for the first time and had a little bit of fun stalking them. After Ohiopyle, we went to Ithaca, New York to visit 2 of Michael's really good friends who moved there 6 or 7 years ago, and we had never been to Ithaca before. It has a ton of beautiful waterfalls, and his friend Jersey gave us a really nice tour of Cornell's campus, and we got to see the house where Carl Sagan lived. It was a really, really nice place, and they took us to a great restaurant, so we had a great day in Ithaca with our friends. Right before we set out on the road, we saw an Instagram post from a whitewater advocacy nonprofit that we are members of, American Whitewater, and they were talking about Deerfield Festival, which is a whitewater festival that was happening in Charlemont, Massachusetts. So after Ithaca, we went to Charlemont. So for 2 days in a row during the festival, we paddled the Deerfield Dryway, which is like a class 3-4 section of the river, and it was so much fun. We met so many cool people in this area. While we were at Deerfield Fest, we met these 2 women who, when they found out what we were up to, they were like, oh, you should go check out Franklin, New Hampshire. They have a really great little section of whitewater in their downtown, and it's super cute and fun. So that's where we went the day after the Whitewater Festival. That turned out to be really cool. There was like a bike walk path that we walked along to like scout the river, and then we ran it. There was lots of cool old bridges that went over the river that we got to paddle underneath. So it was really, really pretty. Then my buddy Ned had recommended that we drive the Kancamagus Highway, which is like the scenic highway that goes through the White Mountain National Forest. So we drove that, but unfortunately at the time that we happened to be driving it, it was like really rainy and foggy, and so we saw almost none of the sights that the scenic highway is famous for. So all the more reason to come back again someday. But we ended up camping in the White Mountains, and for one whole day it just was a downpour. It rained on us the whole time. And we pretty quickly realized that, oh, it's only raining on this side of the mountains. So then we drove to the east side of the mountains, found a different campsite that was really nice and lovely. And so we stayed there for several days. We hiked a mountain called Mount Jefferson. We went all the way to the summit, and it was such a crazy hike. The trail just like disappeared on us a couple times, and there were like cairns to mark it, but sometimes they were just like straight up the rocks, and so it turned into more of a rock scramble near the top than an actual hike, which was a bit more intense than we were expecting, but it was super fun. The winds at the top were just crazy. There were like 60-70 mile an hour winds, and so we stopped at one point to like put our little windbreakers on, and it was so windy. I was like just giggling because I was like, if I let go of this jacket right now, it's going to the next state. Like I'm never gonna see it again. But so that was a really, really fun experience. And the views from up there were just stunning. The campsite that we stayed at was also really, really beautiful. So I don't know how much you can tell in this video, but I'm standing in the middle of a giant swarm of giant dragonflies. It's pretty crazy. Also, I picked all these raspberries from our campsite today. I actually picked a lot more than this, but I've already eaten a lot of them. But yeah, how rad is that? Like, dang. Wild raspberries just happened to be at our free campsite. It's pretty rad. As we were leaving the White Mountains, we went to the Cog Railway Museum on Mount Washington. We didn't actually ride the train, but it was cool to look at it and see it in action and learn about the history of the Cog Railway. Then we went to our second Whitewater Festival in 2 weeks. We had not heard of this one beforehand, but people at the Deerfield Festival that we went to were talking about it, and it was called the West Forks River Fest. And that was in West Forks, Maine. So after the White Mountains, we drove up to West Forks. A couple of the people that we had met from the previous weekend at Deerfield Fest were there. And so we got to paddle 2 new rivers in that location. One of them was the Dead River and the other one was the Kennebec. They were both very cool, very different rivers. And after 2 days at the West Forks River Fest, we moved on to Moosehead Lake in Maine, and that is where I am right now. We're at a great little campsite that we've had to ourselves for most of the several days that we've been here. There was one night when a couple other campers rolled in, but then they rolled out again the next morning, and so we've just really felt like we've had this entire lake to ourselves. It's the biggest lake in Maine, and from where our campsite is, we can't see any houses, we can't see any boats, we can't see like really any signs of civilization. And so it's been really, really cool, like kind of feeling like we're the only people on the planet up here. We've been able to hear some loons, and we've seen a bald eagle, and yeah, we've just been really stunned by how beautiful Maine is so far. So that's been the first 2 weeks of our trip. We haven't made it to Acadia yet. We still have a few more destinations that we might hit a little further north of here before we swing back down south along the coast and go to Acadia. So that'll be in the next vlog, and I can't wait to take you guys along for the ride. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, be kind, read books, go on adventures, and hit the subscribe button below for more cool adventures to come.